California native James T. Mother Miles of the Hells Angels. Nomad Chapter died at the age of 29 on January 9, 1966, just days before his 30th birthday. While on his motorcycle, he collided with a truck in Oakland, leaving him severely injured, a situation from which he would not recover. On January 13th, in a ceremony covered by author Hunter S. Thompson as part of his book on the Hells Angels, Miles was buried at East Lawn Memorial Park in Sacramento in what the Sacramento Bee newspaper dubbed the loudest funeral ever heard. His hearse was escorted by several hundred motorcyclists from all over California. To the thunder of 200 motorcycles that cast a shroud of exhaust smoke, the Hells Angels laid one of their fallen to rest. As newsmen, photographers, and spectators scrambled over grave plots to gain vantage points, the body of James Mother Miles was buried in East Lawn Cemetery near the middle of Sacramento Thursday. Earlier, the cyclists, riding three abreast, formed the bulk of a block-long funeral procession as Miles's body was carried in a sleek hearse along busy Folsom Boulevard from the Nicoletti Funeral Home to the cemetery 9 blocks away. Miles died Sunday of injuries received when his motorcycle and a car collided in Oakland a week before. He was a past president of the Sacramento Hells Angels who moved to Oakland a year ago after charging police harassment of the club. "He was just one of us," said Edmund Lonesome Rajot in explaining the big gathering. Almost as numerous as the spectators who lined the streets and entered the cemetery to gawk at the graveside rites were camera-carrying law enforcement officers, including Rome from the State Attorney General's office. They dutifully photographed members of the club, which often has tangled with the law. But there was no trouble, and city police officials termed the Angels cooperative. The motorcyclists began arriving at the funeral home about an hour before the ceremony. They roared in from San Francisco and Oakland and the towns of the Central Valley. Rajot said some members had flown into San Francisco from such distant points as New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Seattle. "You know how word gets around," he said. "They just wanted to be here, I guess." The Angels, their black leather jackets carrying their winged skull and crossbones insignia, were easily identifiable from members of such Confederate clubs as the Gladiators, Misfits, Gypsy Jokers, and Crossmen. Some of the Angels wore swastika armbands. Many brought their girls who wore uniform of their own, skin-tight ski pants, tight sweaters, and knee-high black leather boots. One cyclist's face was smeared with oil when he entered the chapel to look into the open casket. He said his cycle blew a fuel line on the way from San Francisco, but I just fixed it, poured in some oil, and kept on coming. It was like a reunion outside the chapel, with those already there waving and shouting at late arrivals. But the atmosphere inside the flower-bedecked chapel was somber during a half-hour service. Then the Angels regrouped for the procession to the cemetery. As the mourners grouped around a simple canvas canopy covering the open grave, spectators pressed against a fence separating the cemetery from adjacent homes. After a brief graveside ceremony, the cyclists quickly remounted and roared off, headed by a squad of motorcycle policemen who escorted them to the city limits. Daily Review newspaper, Hayward, California, Friday, January 14, 1966.
when the boy is perfectly safe.
Thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. So, no. There's our great. So shall it forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return.
What about, fellas, this isn't sort of routine or usual for one of your members that might be fallen. What do you think accounts for the turnout you had here today?
Respect for fellow members and riders. Everybody's here. From all the clubs in California are here.
What is it about Jim that brought them all out? I haven't heard of this being done for any other Hell's Angel that I can recall. Why do you think it happened for Jim?
I've done it before for another angel, but I'd say Jim knew, well, you can see the motorcycles over there, how many motorcycles there, and I'd say Jim knew personally almost everybody on that motorcycle.
Plus people that were in the cars.
That's right.
What was it about Jim that brought such friendship?
Jim was just one of them kind of guys that you just had to like.
Why?
His way. He was good to you. He was the president. He led our club in Sacramento, and he took us up there and made the club good up there, too.
Jim had $1 million personality, and there'll never be nobody else like him.
You fellas are from other clubs other than the North Sacramento Club, which moved to Richmond. How did you come to know Jim?
Well, I've known him a long time. I rode with him quite a while. And every time I come up Sacramento, I had a place to stay, with him. Always welcome up there.
How about the fellas? I noticed there was a large contingent from Los Angeles. How did they hear about Jim?
We notified him.
I mean, how did they know about Jim and know of him? Why did they want to come up here?
Well, like I say, every club, like last New Year's and that, we all went down south of Purdue. We've got together on every run, and just out of a clear blue sky, we just might jump up and go down to Purdue or down in the Los Angeles area and just visit with them maybe a couple of days, and we might stay a week down there.
Well, what I'm getting, did Jim have any special kind of reputation amongst the Hells Angels?
Well, he had a little magic touch that was all his own. That's the best I can explain that,
Would
I
you?
really don't know.
Like his nickname implies, Mother Miles. He's like a mother to all of us. That's it.
How about you from other clubs? Have you heard of Jim and his reputation?
Just one of the most righteous persons I ever met.
Righteous in what way? How do you mean that?
In every way. When there was a party, he was there. When the party was over, he would be one of the last to leave.
You can't really explain a guy like Jim. I mean, this isn't something you can put a definite title to or something like that. You know, Jim was just Jim. That's the best way to say it, you know.
You know, when I come down that hill and I seen all them motorcycles, all them policemen, it just made me feel so good to know that now maybe Sacramento will appreciate Jim after it's too late, and then what they really missed in the guy.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe by hitting the broken nose.